I wrote a 1,700 word creative nonfiction short story today, and it was exhausting. But I did learn a lot along the way, and I basically wanted to say, how much proof do you need? I think you're going to get a lot more tonight, but what we need to do is trust what we've been shown. Know that odds are we're right. They're rewriting history in front of our face. Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Do not let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you or me in a fair and honest, that means nonviolent way. I'm going to go ahead and start with this thing. It's the thing that lets you say what you want to say and show these videos I want to show. I got these things going here. Where's that one? I did the clog dancing. Here's that story I wrote. Talked all about, no child labor laws now. So we're in baseball, little league. They keep us busy in other ways. The Australian crawl, I showed how that was new, was told how I had a novel idea of just trying to hold my breath and go for it. Why take a breath every time? And ended up winning a race by quite a ways, and my life was changed. Got born again, talked about that. Got baptized the next week after my mom said, somebody wants to talk to you. Talked about how I took LSD and decided to read the Bible. Couldn't find one thing wrong with anything Christ said. Yeah, I turned these things in. That's what I'm called to do. I don't know what you're called to do. I'm also, if the former president of the United States had an ancestor who fought for the Confederacy in the War of Northern Aggression, that's what they call it, Little Barry Walker Carter. I saved this picture because I am wondering if he's in any relation to the George Herbert Walker Bush. Wasn't that a big family? Captain Cuts, Sumter County Flying Artillery. That sounds. So here is where he visited. That picture is the thumbnail. He was visiting Americana. I think it's in Brazil. Survivors after the Civil War thought the South would rise again and moved here in Brazil. That's where it was. 500 to 600 families and their descendants still live there. Carter visits Dixie Town, Sao Paulo, Brazil. This was another one. Goodwill stops in Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil. There you go. They still use that southern accent. How about that? He was happy to see him. There's your thumbnail right there. Wow. I don't think that's, you know what? Forget where that was from. I guess that's it for the pictures. I better get back to the other stuff. Hey, how's this sound, this audio? And I left a link in there. It's not only for RJ, but if anybody wants to hit that and see if we get an echo, I would be curious. Here we go. Let's just, this bridge, all the old bridges are built on these old foundations. You know it or you don't.
结合在一起，桥跟树一起桥相辉映的这种景色。
I don't think we need the music. We can look at they're 1,000-year old. You think so? Used at the time of Christ? I don't see why not. We cannot do these things today. Clean out a little mud flood, manage the mangroves. Boom, Bridgety doodah. What do you got? Oysters attracted them. Keep them mangroves out. Interesting. Now, I did a story recently about Bruce Willis, and I saw them filming the movie Mercury Rising about how there was no autism back in the day. And then Cold War Tales puts this out 2 weeks ago. It's a computer. And, and I looked at some of the other stuff. He's dropping bombs that nobody heard of.
By sophisticated surveillance or federal agents, but by an employee who noticed something unusual. The employee was a 23-year-old woman named Patricia Martinez, and she had been working at the McDonald's for just over a year. Her responsibilities included taking orders, working the register, and periodically cleaning the dining area, wiping down tables, sweeping floors, and
Computer.
emptying trash bins. It was during one of these cleaning rounds, sometime around 2:30 in the afternoon, that something caught her attention. A man in his mid-40s, wearing a dark suit and glasses, had been sitting in a booth near the back of the dining area for approximately 20 minutes. He appeared to be alone, eating slowly and occasionally glancing at his watch, the kind
That doesn't sound that unusual.
of customer who seemed in no particular hurry to leave. Then a second man walked in. He was younger, perhaps in his late 30s, with dark hair and a heavier build.
All right, this is not the story about the autism, but I want you to check out this. Caught his wife as a spy. Neighbors found a KGB safe house. Here is the one.
The breakthrough in identifying the insider at Sears came on March 24th, 1979, nearly 3 weeks into the investigation. FBI background checks had flagged a copywriter named Alexei Pitishin, age 41, who'd been working in Sears' catalog division. Pitishin was a naturalized American citizen, born in the Soviet Union, but immigrated to the United States in 19...
Naming names, giving dates, showing pictures. Coming from the first known, back when kids that had autism were geniuses, not children who thought they were good at video games and were really good at looking through you.
or unexpected changes in routine, and developed intense, almost obsessive interests that would consume him completely for months or years at a time. His current obsession, the one that had taken over his life since the previous summer, was patterns. Not just any patterns, but numerical patterns.
So he started noticing some weird phrases in the catalog and he wrote them down.
February, a 1,400-page monster of a book weighing over 2 pounds. Its glossy pages packed with everything from washing machines to wedding
So, what's so weird about it? I would have looked at every page,
applications.
but I don't know if I would do
They were the
this.
kind of bland, technical language that appeared in thousands of product descriptions throughout the catalog. But Michael had noticed that these particular phrases broke certain grammatical or logical patterns that
This is their history that they're releasing now, that they want us to believe, that they made movies about, and we can think we're learning something, except they're faking history. A kid cracked the code. Come
he
on.
turned to page 84 in the catalog. On that page, he counted down to the 60-second line of text and looked at the 34th character. It was an M. He wrote it down. He took
I'm sure he did. And then he said, Mom.
found the pattern and how the code worked. Gordon Hartley's first reaction was skepticism. He picked up the notebook, looked at Michael's work, looked at the catalog and asked his son if he was absolutely certain he'd done this correctly.
You know I did, Dad, so call the FBI
A
now.
duty officer. Gordon explained that he had information about what might be a coded message being used for espionage and tried to convey
Did you
that
heard about
this
this?
visit to
It's
the
not
Hartley home
important. It is not important. They're releasing it now. It is a distraction. Have you ever even seen or heard of the movie Mercury Rising? I know it was probably showing while I was still typing. Scary.
Mercury, the most sophisticated national security code ever created.
Once we complete its installation, it's going to be very hard for our adversaries to compromise our communications.
And it has just been broken by a 9-year-old boy.
Where did you get this number?
599.
He's calling from his own house.
Simon, put down the phone, honey.
We slipped a message in the back of a puzzle magazine. We basically dared the amateurs to take a
You were
crack,
sure that no one would ever call.
but somebody did it.
Some people believe
There must be nothing that connects the boy.
Art is a stranger.
Give him up. Take him back. Did you give your own kid up? It's not your kid. Well, right now
He's got the autism. It's fake. It's fake history, man. You know what's really happening? Here's another one. Caught his wife. She was 16 years married. She was a spy. Oh no. So I did keep the Sears catalog one up, but you're up to date on that. These guys are finding some weird stuff in China.
往下来看一下，这个地上也是有很多的一探究竟。这个位置就是地宫的入口，我们过来看一下。这个缺口还是很大的，它就是当年采石工人一锤子下去，无意之间给它凿开的，然后发现里面是空的。你们看，里面的空间特别的大呀，里面有很多的房间。这个设计真的是太牛了，像我们蹲在这个地方上厕所啊，真的是一泻千
I
里。
can hear the echo. I think it's caused by this Chinese tunnel.
一个孔啊，这个孔就比较大了。我们看看这外面，这外面它就是采石场，只不过现在已经废弃了。好，我们继续往里面走。
That's how you say, okay, let's continue. Go.
这个是石梯还是什么？
Is
这
it
地方
really?
凸出来一块儿，不知道是干嘛用的。这里，它下面还有这个水槽的设计啊，你们看，特别的深。
Sichuan. Huh. You know what? What are the way that God judges? Famine, sword, pestilence. 6 years old.
How much do you really know about the human papillomavirus? We hear the word epidemic a lot these days. There's the obesity epidemic.
This is before the COVID. I wonder how it affected with that mDNA.
Student debt epidemic, the opioid epidemic, the loneliness epidemic, and so on. But what about infectious diseases? In this era of modern medicine, are there any epidemic?
What about this time of sexually transmitted diseases where their number one goal is for people to think you don't need to be married, there is no God, just go have sex? And I think the warts are about to come out. Here's some numbers. I don't know what they mean.
Which is really a similar process. And so cervical cancer, this is American data from actually 4 states in the United States, which show...
2013.
Anyway, we'll stay there. So
male.
It shows that cervical cancer is falling.
Female.
Cancer is increasing, and particularly in men, which is this line here.
Huh.
And in 2010...
Look at this. Look at the title of this. What they're, what they want to teach with, they give you the money for those American aid packages. The MOH directs girls 14 years and younger with compromised immunity systems, if you've already had to take a lot of antibiotics, you should get 3 shots of this new vaccine. That's really what's going to help. That's 3 weeks old. Only me and 6 other people have watched it. Yikes. I don't even need to know what they say. I think it's a bad idea. I don't know. Here's some cancer things. Most commonly sexually transmitted disease. Sometimes it'll spontaneously go away. No, viruses don't just go away. They store themselves in your lymph nodes and other places. Pretty sure got Nobel Prizes proving this, that, and the other thing that it's going up. Yeah. It's going to cause warts in a certain amount of people, and pretty soon they're going to be not just hidden down in your genital area. They're going to be everywhere. I think even, not those warts on your hand or your foot, but the ones on your face, your lips, your private parts. It's time to say no.
Condyloma, or genital warts inside the urethra, are a challenging sexually transmitted infection affecting 10 to 28% of individuals with external genital warts. These lesions, caused by human papillomavirus, HPV, typically types 6 and 11, lead to over 500,000 new genital wart cases annually in the United States.
Wow, that's only the United States. I guess they don't make tools like they used to.
Unfortunately, the new blast and
before World War II.
All the rage in those days. And so there was a perception that the older crucible-made steel was just lower quality. So some tool makers responded by stamping cast steel on their tools.
I guess they were better. They made better tools back then. You're really going to pay out the wazoo if you want good tools today. That's not really the one I wanted to see. The one I wanted to see was this one. Something about the guy that was making files. Where's that guy making the file? He was using the old steel. There's nobody that does this anymore. This is about the last file cutter. And even at the end, when it shows him, that side where you rip through it. I'll just show you how he did it.
Ones that machines rasp. They are uneven, and this has the advantage that no burrs are created when working with a rasp.
Now, you might think that's how they did it back in the old days, for sure. But the reality was he found the machines and he was trained on them back in the day. And now he's the last guy that remembers how to use them. But without these big machines, forges.
We signed an apprenticeship contract. I have been doing this for almost 50 years now.
Including the arrow sides, smooth and even, the file cutter has to grind the steel.
You got to have steam
for a good cut. And again, the rule is to remove as much as necessary, but as little as possible.
I guess that's how they did it back in the day when the steel was good. That's enough of that. What is this? This is a mud flood building in the middle of Chile, in the middle of South America. They did not build these buildings with the colonies and everything else. They had the Nazis move here and the people from the Civil War settle there so they could say, and then those guys, those Germans, those white guys that were so good built these buildings. That's what we're looking at here. Not buying into one bit of the fact that they had to fake a bunch of wars during World War II to explain away why there's Star Fort cities all over South America. why the CIA stabbed some people in the back and not others. It's everywhere in South America. The buildings is what I'm talking about. The Phrygian cap, the freed slaves that believed that they were going to be free. This is Bolivia, landlocked, former star fort cities with the mines that they still use today. This town has not changed very much. Explain away the Phrygian caps and the mud flood buildings in Bolivia, where Butch Cassidy, the Freemason and the Sundance Kid, his pal, ended up dying. These people were set up too. It must have been during the COVID, huh? In Doric Basins much. You want to see this one picture. I'm going to get close on it too. I'm actually wearing an alpaca sweater. In unity. Look, yes, look at our flag. He's happy, mud flood. Oh, yeah, sure you did that in the 1800s. Sure you did. Because you had to. Where's that other cool picture of the fountains? Oh, that's lithium. That's what is that as far as the body part? What would that be? Well, we got to see a lot of mud floods. That's not the one that had the waterfalls. I must have looked up. This is another one of those people that alleged Soviet spy. I guess there really was something to this story that he was talking about. So they really did live for 16 years. Turns out he was in on it too. The husband that played stupid for a while. Was this another one here? Still no reason given why the couple would have taken names of two children who were more than a decade younger than them. But they did marry under their original names and remarried under their new identities in '88. But maybe it was a little bit of government overreaching and they weren't spies. I don't know. Let's see. For services rendered, the Fifth Estate. So there were a lot of Morrisons involved in scandal type situations back then. This is the same name, the last name Morrison, but it was simply another spy named Morrison. I was fascinated by these stopping rifles that had, they fired a quarter-pound bullet, and boy, they sure like to make sure they didn't waste any space that could be embellished. Every little thing. Rare guns. This is another rare gun. Another look at the trigger, I guess. Same picture. Let's look at this bridge a little closer. See if they don't show us a little something. You might notice that this might be the Moonlight Tower of the Buddha. Is this the Josh protecting the bridge on each end, or is it a statue of a man? Is this the Longzhou Bridge Island? I don't think so. Is that the stone sculpture of that man? Or is that the bridge? So Wikipedia, anyway, there you go. There's these floating pedestals. 1,000 years old, they say. Quite the bridge. Interesting. The floating, you know, I guess it gives it more strength. I think they have so they only needed that up here. Here just flowed through. Probably didn't get that wide very often. Here's another town. Colonia Dignidad. Colonia Dignidad. So this was a World War II Nazi colony headed by a sex pervert, fugitive from West Germany, ran it was a Nazi place. They had it's like they held him in a concentration camp. Here's a guy that started the two-seed theology. He was one of them. Yeah, you don't think William Brennan was one of those guys that started the two-seed theology, the Aryan nation, the second wave of Pentecostals, was very popular on TV in the charismatic movement, but then he kind of went a little bit crazy again, charismatic, Pentecostal. His theology was kind of crazy. Wonder why. Black sheep, members of the Indiana, his family unable to pay medical bills, but the Ku Klux Klan stepped in to cover the expenses. It's going to say talking about the Aryan nation and things like that, because he led, not only did he have the healing revivals, like I said, it became a very racist, very eugenic type of thing. Samuel the prophet. Look at this. Started the Assembly of God. That's some interesting things going on with them right now. Maybe you could speed it up. Let's see his legacy and influence. Initiator, wow, of the healing revivals. Worshippers bowing at his grave. This is the guy that started the Aryan nation, or they kind of go with it. Let's see where this will go to. Besides the simple Branhamism. There's the serpent seed. Serpent seed, dual seed, two-seed headline. He did it. It was this guy. He taught that the serpent mated with Eve, you know. Hey, let's tag team Eve. Satan, sure. That's what some people want to believe. He did it. That guy, we looked at him. He looks fishy to me. He did it. It's all fake, and they're using it now to bring in the Mormonism, Noahide laws, charismatic Roman Catholics. This town, man, right? There it is. That's what I was wanting to show you. It was in China. I was in the wrong continent. Is that, hey, Panda, is that some yummy bamboo? Look at that. What do we got over here? Look at the foot on that guy. Okay. China. Sichuan. What he was holding? I don't know. Is that a swastika, or another face? I don't know. These are going in, looks like opposite directions, possibly. Sichuan, the golden sunbird, megaliths. They have to explain it somehow, because the mud flood was Armageddon. We saw the old map there, the old mine, and here, you know, the mud flood buildings. We have to build a town here because our history will necessarily need to explain these mud flood buildings they built in the middle of nowhere. Few up here, cinder block, look a little bit older, but for the most part, That looks like something that we'd be doing today. I wonder what they're doing in that one part. Some of the buildings, no. They're brick and they're mining and something weird going on. That's worship. Panned it again. That's the Chinese military. They're coming for you. What else we got? Here's that giant Buddha. He got its own pictures. There you go. People lining up to see the craziness. What is this going on? Here's from the side. You don't see that one very often. You sure don't. Body parts of the Titans. Rocks are be the body parts reserved in judgment, like the treasure you build up, gold, silver, precious stone. You can't carry anything with you, so they say. But you can, you'll be fire doesn't bother gold, silver, and precious stones. It kind of looks a lot of plaster in there. I don't know how much of that is the actual rock. There's the path that winds up it. You can check that off of your bucket list. Now, same place, Midland, China, Sichuan, Protestant churches. You got to keep Sichuan in the news because supposedly in the middle of nowhere, China, in 1876, they decided there's enough Methodists here, or they've done such a fantastic job of converting them. We'll need to build some Protestant churches in everywhere around China. And we'll give this guy the credit because we're faking history left and right, everybody. And you know it. I know it. The American people know it. Russians know it. China know it. The mob knows it. Quit looking at me like that, dude. Yeah, they found it because the mud flood was Armageddon. Did you ever hear about this great Chinese famine? In these 4 years, the largest famine in human history, one of the greatest man-made disasters, death toll from 15 to 55 million. I was alive. And they have no problem in rubbing people out. So here we'll look at one particular church in China just to be amazed and go, wow, it hasn't changed at all. And since the mud flood was Armageddon. Sure, okay. We'll look at another one. Here's another one in same town in China. They're only going to show 3 pictures. I don't see anybody in it. I see one little tree. Hey, thanks for that good picture. Chinese evangelist staff of 7 people. But that's a pretty good looking building. Now, Latin America during World War II. They were, they were busy playing their part as going to continue being the hideout for Whitey. Yeah, the Nazis. 400 million, they were propping them up. There was going to be a place where they could go find Mingala later. Is that a mud flood? We're getting any mud flood pictures in these? Mud flood train, mud flood Starfort. I see it in the background. There it is, because Wikipedia doesn't want you to see it. You don't know him. He was probably a Freemason that's going like, well, I guess I have to take it like a man. Children, do your feet hit the table? What is going on? Mud flood much? President Roosevelt. New thing, the aeroplane. Submarines were new. Mud flood was new. So the history of Paraguay You know, this is one of those things that supposedly they weren't doing anything until the 1600s when the Jesuits showed up. And they said, you know what you really need? Big cities with some maybe mud flood buildings in them. There'll have to be some big churches and things that they didn't do. You did it in the 1800s. Celebrate Spain, celebrate, and let the colonials accept their conqueror's religion. Well, some of them that would show signs of worshiping the Trinity and becoming Catholic, they found these. They didn't have them built. This was destroyed during the mud flood. This was the type of towns Jesus and the apostles lived in. The Gentiles, the Persians, the Babylonians, there were never monkey people, stupid people. All of this is a lie of history. They propped up South America as a place for the Nazis to run to and explain away this type of thing. What else do we got here in Paraguay? That's that same thing. I think we looked at some of those already. Here's another town, the Confederados. These are the people that basically moved to Brazil for the same reasons to explain away the buildings that were there and give us this history. They founded Americana. We'll look at that later. But this is how you explain away, you know, why people would move there. Because these towns were there. That's Americana. And Jimmy Carter promised them you could be white also. You've been marrying in. Mud flood these buildings, baby. I wonder if they show any more of the Americano town. Chattel slavery. Oof. Any pictures of this? Well, it's a fairly big town today. You got a Phrygian cap. What do you got? You got a beehive. You got those old women. You got kind of, it looks like a Confederate thing there. Nice house, nice trees. That guy did it, huh? It turned into a big town. A nice old mud flood dam. Hydroelectric, huh? Yeah. Mud flood house on the cliffs. Hello. You got rock and roll concerts. Consequence of the Triple Alliance War. Argentina sought to enforce one of the secret clauses of the Triple Alliance Treaty. Excuse me. I'm gonna go ahead and ripple because they know I mean triple. I'll look at it. Germany, Austria, Hungary, Italy, trying to take over South America, maybe. Germany getting in the action in the Balkans. What's going on? Where's this South America? Bosnia, Herzegovina, Italy. Some, you know, there's this weird stuff going on. Romania, you saw this was the secret treaty thing. Huh, they must have made secret deals that threw in part of Brazil. So anyway, New Germany. It was another one of those Nazi towns. This one was supposedly even faked by Nietzsche's sister. Had to go there. She lived there for a while, demonstrated the supremacy of German culture and society. It basically explained away. I'm sure this town had more than the one picture they show. They were there because they needed a reason. Now, is this really is it coming down to if you believe in any politics, you're the bad guy? I think this guy might be close.
This year is cheaper because it's higher this year.
If that's true, then everything Trump said was a lie, which is typical because he is really, really good at lying. As a matter of fact, he's one of the most prolific political liars.
According to one MAGA ally, forget what you hear.
There are issues on some of these prices, although I think affordability is greatly overrated.
Just a quick reminder, that was
Is going to solve anything, you know? We'll call this person a communist, that person a communist. We know it's all about the adrenochrome. We know what they're up to. We know what we have to do. We have to remain faithful until the end. We can't pretend that, you know, we're not interested in sex. We have to realize everybody knows it's a drive, not a hunch. But with the threat of eternal salvation, God, sexually transmitted diseases, the economy, the fact that a lot of people are pumped with a virus that may or may not turn them into zombies for the upcoming, you know, we're being encompassed about. Satan is going to do this. They're going to think they're winning until they're finally about to rub out the last blessed people. And fire is going to come down and save us again. Because this is all a satanic lie. I don't care what they say about the UFOs and the alien invasions, Anunnaki and Atlantis. It's Bible world. The Bible is what's true. Jesus is the creator. He is God. You found yourself on your knees, believing in your heart that Jesus Christ is Lord, so you confess, became addicted to the only approved addiction to a people that are prone to addiction, the study of the scripture. The Bereans were addicted to the study of scripture. Can't get enough of it. You keep reading and you find out, wow, I did confess with my mouth and believe in my heart because I was called, chosen, predestined, and known from before the foundation of the world so that I would have no reason to boast. But I would live in constant fear of God, knowing he's given me talents, planted me in soil like all wheat. Some yield 30, 60, 90, some yield 100. The ones that yield 100 only are rewarded if they yield 100. Like a man who rewards the sons who serve him is our God, faithful to the end. How do you know you're going to heaven? You die in faith, knowing it's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. They added 1,000 years. There was at least Noah's flood, Armageddon, and whatever catastrophe the angels that put in their sickle and reaped at the end of the 1,000 years caused. We're what's left. The strain of the orphan trained brain whose parents weren't put down, weren't institutionalized, sterilized, or lobotomized, were left to raise us, to be millstone. But God has lifted a veil, and you can believe it or not. And my friends are going to tell you Jesus Christ is God. Amen. Hallelujah. I hope. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakaman. Adios, amigos. That's how I like to